Welcome back to the best show on TV. Deen Talk. You like that? Like that intro? I'm working on my intros and my transition. Anyway, we gave a story before the last break about praying, and you were just in a break asking me have I actually prayed on the floor in space as opposed to the seat, and I do. However, I feel like Muslims have a responsibility, and you guys can beat me up on this, especially this guy talking about the beat down, right? You can beat me up on this. I think I'd like to go to the person, the closest airport official around, and say, "Hey, I'm going to be making a prayer over there," or do you think there's a better place, or maybe they'll direct me to a chapel, or they'll say, "Oh, you can pray right here," so that it's everybody's comfortable. Now, I don't know if that's being an apologetic Muslim or if that's being unapologetic Muslim, but that's why I brought you guys to help me navigate that space.
It's being a smart Muslim.
It's being a smart Muslim. Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, clear your
I
throat.
usually ask them, do you know which direction is east?
Uh-huh.
And they say, I don't know, this way or that way. And why do you want to know east? So I gotta pray, gotta face a certain direction.
Uh-huh.
I say, it opens up a question, why do you guys face that direction?
Uh-huh.
So because there's a place built by Abraham to symbolize the oneness of God, and us facing that direction shows that our whole life we're facing and our journey is towards God. And then, like, yeah, you can pray over there, east is this way.
The difference here is somebody that comes on time to the airport and somebody that's running late. You can have that conversation when you come on time. Okay, but yes.
I like one of the things I heard you say in there is you open up a conversation not saying what you're going to do, but asking a question and engaging in conversation and then teaching. Because I don't think everybody knows that we share the Prophet Abraham in the Christian tradition and the Muslim tradition. And that's a wonderful place of building understanding. And so the way you ask those questions and open that up, I think it's unfair that the responsibility to teach falls on the Muslim community, and yet that's, again, part of the reality. And what a great way to build understanding.
We kind of have to, because the Quran says, come to the common term between you and the people of the book. And we share revelation from God. All of us have scriptures that came from the same source. And many people think Muslims are a completely different thing, worshipping a moon god, or I don't know, I've heard some strange things. But we have commonalities, and every time we bring up those commonalities, it creates a bond and trust. Like we share prophets like Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jesus. We believe in all of them, and most people actually don't know that about Muslims.
But so I said I was going to bring up one thing in particular. It's definitely something we wanted to bring on the show because this tradition is in the Christian tradition as well, which is the feet washing, right? So and you said in my earlier analogy, you said you're a smart Muslim, not an unapologetic Muslim. So let's talk about that. Abdullah, when you go into a public restroom, McDonald's or rest stop, you need to make wudu, or local hotel, you need to make wudu, and you go into the bathroom. Do you make wudu and do you wash your feet in the sink?
Well, I like to make it a habit to have made wudu and then put on some thick socks on afterwards, so that I don't have to go through the process of putting my feet in the sink when I can just do
so that's a school of thought. Some schools of thought say you have to take it off all the time.
Right, but let's just say that I followed the school of thought where I had to take it off. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, well, to me at least, I know some people could feel shy. They try to do it quickly so that someone might not walk in. But I think
you got to play that off.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they're being apologetic about it, but it's just that you just don't want to be put in a situation of uncomfortability or of discomfort. And I think we can't just say, oh, you're being apologetic because you're not willing to brave it, to put your foot in the sink and wash that thing, and someone asks you a question like, why are you doing that? Why is this guy taking a shower? And you're not willing to engage in conversation. It doesn't necessarily mean that. People come with different levels of comfort and courage and everything else, and that's completely fine. Everyone has their strengths, everyone has their weaknesses, but being able to understanding that this is something that is a mandatory, obligatory act, and completing that is enough for you to call yourself a believing, practicing, unapologetic Muslim.
What do you think with that specific thing? And the reason why I want to ask you, because I'm going to come back to the tradition in the Christian tradition, but putting your feet in the sink, or not necessarily you. So I don't want to.
I've done all kinds of things when it comes to that. I obviously look at the situation. If it's a very busy bathroom,
Mhm.
and I know that there'll be lots of people coming in and out, and I'll be getting a lot of weird looks, I have different ways. Like if I am close to the outdoors, I have a little water bottle, and then I just go like wash my feet over like the grass or something. Just I become creative. But if it's something where I know it's not there's not a lot of traffic, sure, why not?
So, and before I come to you, Reverend Chris, and you can chime in too. But the concept of, because he used some body language like braving it, rah, and you said if you feel like there's going to be too many people looking, but that is at the essence of what we're talking about. On that, if Muslims are concerned about that, when they bypass that, are they being unapologetically Muslim? Or if they cater to that, are they being apologetic? Right. So, how would you feel about the person who does it? So you say you survey this situation, and then you'll do something that you think is a better, more appropriate, right? But for the person that you walk in and it's a busy bathroom and they're putting their feet in the sink and they're getting all these looks, would you be like, you go, girl, with your feet in the sink?
Absolutely,
Aha, okay.
absolutely. I have made it a point in the last 6 months, whenever I'm walking around, anywhere I see a Muslim looking person, even if they're not Muslim, if they're just some other, if they can be racialized as Muslim, I always say Salaam. I make that effort because in times like these, when your existence is a form of resistance, you have to support each other, and you need that community more so than ever.
Okay.
So the tradition of foot washing in the Christian tradition is different, especially in how we practice it. It really only comes up usually once a year during Holy Week. It's
When
not
is
as
Holy Week?
The week before Easter.
Okay.
So we're coming into it very soon. Easter is April 16th. So that's when you see the Pope washes the feet of 12 people representing the disciples. So for us, it's not an act that you do before you pray. Though what a beautiful act. I love it. But it's not something that we do regularly, so we don't face the same challenges that you do in your tradition. But I think one of the places where we have similarities across our traditions is this feeling of our culture is secularizing more and more. So I even notice growing up, I grew up Christian, and we prayed at home before we ate. But anytime we went out to a dinner, we wouldn't pray when we were out before we ate.
Because
people might stare. People might judge. And that's part of our culture. And so when I went to seminary and I noticed that some of my seminary friends, it was very important to them to pray before we'd eat when we were out, and some it wasn't. And so you kind of sense it out. But I'm very aware of how that feels to be uncomfortable in this act of faith. So I appreciate, and I don't fear when I'm doing that because of the tradition that we live in. It's a predominant, I don't think it's a predominant tradition. We are a Christian culture in a lot of ways, and so I don't think that I'm threatened the way I hear the fear that you have, and yet I still notice it, you know? And even when I walk around collared, right? This is what I only collar a few times
you get more
a month.
respect or more stares or what?
I don't know, but I notice the stares. I do it in part, I'm going to the hospital this afternoon to visit a member of our church, and I have easier access. I don't get stopped, especially
right this way.
Right, but especially as a young woman in ministry, people are like, "Wait, you're a pastor? Are you, are you sure?" kind of attitude, because I think they expect older men usually. And so I do recognize that I collar in order to go places that I know it will get me access.
Wait.
But you get stared at, and you get looks differently in the same way that somebody wearing a hijab might.
But like, for example, if Imam Shoaib or Imam Majid, for example, were to wear like a thobe or whatever, because that's for them, that's their clothing, right? Especially when they're representing the majlis and everything else. If they were to go out, in public or to a hospital, they'll definitely get a lot more stares than if they were to just wear this. Yeah.
Many times.
Right.
So what I want to know though, because this, and we're gonna have to do some of this in our next segment. I'm sorry, this is just deep stuff. The different, I want you to analyze for me the two statements that she made. I'm not picking on you, Abiha, right? And in one situation where I said that I was, kind of checking in with the person next to me to make sure that this is right. She felt that's smart. That's what you should do. then in another situation, she mentioned like because of the climate of America, you have to support each other. Even though she might not have considered it to be putting her feet in the sink, she might have went somewhere else. The other Muslim woman that was doing it, she would kind of be like, "Yes, you go." And why sometimes, we might say, "Oh, that's smart to do or not smart to do," and other times you want to be like, "No, you get in there, and if you get beat down, it's fine." What are we dealing with here?
Well, first off, as Muslims, because we're the minority here, it's our responsibility as individuals to represent the religion and to be teachers of it. And the Quran says, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikma wal maw'idatan hasana." Call to the way of your Lord with wisdom and in a beautiful discourse. And so the wisdom in that aspect is when I had somebody tell me he was washing his feet, and somebody said,
"Where? Can you give me a picture? Take me there."
This is a person. He was giving a public lecture, and he said, he was washing his feet, and somebody came up and questioned him. Said, "Why are you washing your feet in the sink? We wash our face here," as an objection. And he said, "I told the man, how many times you wash your face?" He said, "Maybe once or twice a day." He said, "I wash my feet 5 times a day. It's cleaner than your face." I mean, I don't think
that sounds like a bad Muslim joke.
I don't think that's necessarily the approach we should take. But
Thank
at
you.
the same time, it's an obligatory aspect of our religion. So we have to be able to teach the people, because people, psychology teach us. Most people have fear of darkness. Why? Because they don't know what's there. They can't see. And once they turn on the light, they feel safer. Similarly, the reason for a lot of this Islamophobia is there's this ignorance about what is Islam, what are Muslims, why are they washing their feet? And it's an act of purification, but there's also, many other scholars say it's a symbolic act, which shows, because your feet represent your journey, your path, where are you headed? And to clean the feet, because sometimes you walk in places you're not supposed to walk, and you step on dirt and step on filth and all of these things. And if you're walking towards God, you better have clean feet. You know what I mean? So it's a symbolic act, and many people, they don't know that, Muslims, they know that maybe some of them, they have heard Muslims pray and they've seen us pray, but washing the feet happens in a closed environment, so most people are not aware of that. And I think we have to turn on the lights and let people see, but like you did, explain to them, I have to wash up for the prayer. Do you mind if I wash my feet? And if it's uncomfortable to put the feet, most people are not gymnastically capable of doing that. But to have like a towel or something, just wet it and wipe it over the feet, that fulfills the requirement.
Yeah, but would you recommend that because it's difficult for you to get your leg in there, or because that can achieve what you need and also be wise
more so than safety. We had, for example, Adam Center.
Slipping, yeah.
We had a branch in Fairfax. We were renting out a hotel, and of course, Jummah prayers, people come and they want to make their ablutions before they pray, and they wash their feet. And as you take the feet off, all this water is falling on the ground. Somebody slipped, and so we actually lost the contract. And we advise the congregation many times. Make your ablutions at home or in your office before you come here. And our Prophet, he made it very easy for us. You wash your feet in the morning, and then you put on socks. And some of the scholars disagree on what kind of socks. The safest way is if you have leather socks, but others said if your socks doesn't have holes in it and it's thick enough, if it's thick enough that you wipe your hand over it, with water, that the water immediately doesn't go through it.
Now, you said it was religiously, you talked about people doing it and may be uncomfortable with it, but it's a religious obligation.
Yes.
However, in the situation that you mentioned, in other places, the Muslims themselves will put a sign up and say, "Do not put your feet in the sink." And then the Muslims will say, "No, this is a religious obligation. I have to do it." How do you balance that space between? And we're not going to do it in this section. We're going to do it in the next section. But the question I have for the next session is, he gave the Quranic verse about inviting people to this way with wisdom. So I think that's kind of at the crux of what we're talking about. When is it wise to do this? When is it wise to do that? When does the religion say, because of this concept of inviting people with wisdom, you're going to make an accommodation, versus the religion says, no, you have to stand up and be strong? what does it mean to be unapologetically Muslim? All that and more when we come back.
This Deen TV video was made possible in part by Islamic Relief USA, working together for a better world, by Guidance Residential, the #1 Islamic home financer in the U.S., and by Recycle Processes Incorporated.